Senator Owe Omo Egege, the Obarisi of Oroboland, the Senate leader and other principal officers present, the chairman of the Senate Press Corps, Mr. James Itodo, very distinguished members of the Senate Press Corps, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, before I read my speech, let me say that the program appears to me, as it is here, a little bit dry, because it's like after I speak, the Vice Chairman of the Senate Press Corps will say, thank you very much for coming. And then we'll go out. This might be the tradition or the convention over the years. But sometimes we can venture into the unknown. We could decide to do things slightly differently. Probably we could achieve better outcome. So I want to make an amendment to the program, very slight, a dose that is not going to cause any side effect, that we can entertain one or two questions, but not controversial ones, since I'm not privileged to know what you say. But I imagine that this is a friendly atmosphere, and therefore any attempt to shoot, the rubber bullets will be used, rather than live bullets. Having said this, let me read my speech. I'm most pleased to be with you for this interactive session. It is a long overdue meeting, and thank God the SA media said you wanted this meeting. I think even if you didn't ask for it, we should give it to you. Even if you didn't ask. So it's, I think, a matter of better late than never, because this meeting should have taken place sometimes in the early second week of June. That is when we would have clocked 1 year in office or in the National Assembly. We all appreciate the importance of the press, not just in the governance process, but in projecting legislative activities. Our peculiar role as lawmakers involve consultations, deliberations, and a consideration for popular opinion. The press is a major vehicle for the functioning of these processes and for feedback in the governing system. This arrangement has often led to the description of the press as the fourth estate of the realm. The Nigerian press has been outstanding over the years, and the section of the press attached to the National Assembly has been additionally committed, which is why this meeting is well deserved, to ensure a synergy of purpose for the good governance of our dear country. This interactive session is not necessarily for a lengthy speech, so my speech is going to be short, but essentially to hear from you and respond to your concerns. And I've listened to what the chairman has said. And at the appropriate time, before I take my seat, I will respond to them. But before then, oh, you want to clap? But before then, however, it is important to reiterate a few things that I'm confident you are already well aware of. You will appreciate, for instance, that we have a Senate where members work in a bipartisan pattern, not just for the achievement of a set agenda, but in demonstration of our character as a set of patriotic legislators. And of course, we all know how the present leadership of the Senate particularly emerged. The APC was total in its support, and the PDP was fantastic in complementing the voting of the presiding officers. And therefore, right from the onset, there was an expression of the desire to work together as a chamber, even though we represent three different political platforms. And we promise ourselves that everybody will be carried along, regardless of the political party platform. And so far, we can say we have done fairly well. We can do better, but I'm sure that partisan sentiments have been extremely very low. And that's not to say that the opposition does not oppose. Thanks to the minority leader, who would sometimes even speak some things in arrears. So we still get that biting from the opposition, but of course, the unity, the understanding is so fantastic that we are able to do so much within a short time. We collectively realize that we are all citizens of this country, and our destiny is largely in our hands. We cannot propel our citizens onto the next level if we live in rancor and in acrimony. The realization of this has made us to be one Senate and one National Assembly, working harmoniously with other arms of government, particularly the executive. This philosophy has led to several achievements, including the remarkable reversal of our inappropriate budget cycle. Well, there is no doubt that this Senate has achieved a feat. If you are talking about the reversal of the budget cycle that before was unpredictable, very irregular, very undesirable, and unproductive to our economy, to implementation and execution of government programs, to our businesses for the sake of planning. We have been able to achieve that because the Senate and indeed the National Assembly works harmoniously with the executive arm of government. And here, it is important to mention that it's not a one-way traffic. It's not like the National Assembly or the Senate is the one that is only desirous of harmony. The executive is also desirous of a harmonious relationship. You recall that in October last year, when the National Assembly received the budget estimates from Mr. President, we wanted to pass the budget before the Christmas break, before the end of December. We told ourselves in the National Assembly, we are going to work assiduously. We'll ensure we don't travel out of the country. and the President, representing the executive arm of government, issued a statement, which all of us here will recall, specifically saying that no minister or chief executive of any agency of government would travel out of Nigeria without an approval from the presidency. And even those that had prior approvals to travel had to go for validation, that they must all come to defend their budgets here in the National Assembly. And of course, the National Assembly was a beehive of activities throughout that period between October and the early part of November. That was an executive legislature working harmoniously to ensure that something positive was done for the people of Nigeria. And we achieved it. At the end of the day, the budget was passed by the National Assembly and the President assented. Let me also emphasize here that it is not correct that when you work in harmony, you surrender your powers. The National Assembly will continue to insist on oversight so long as we can appropriate funds, which is one of our major mandates provided by the Constitution. We are equally empowered by the same Constitution to oversight how such projects are executed and implemented, how the processes and procedures are established, defined, and implemented. And the National Assembly will definitely not shy in its own responsibility on this. But let me also emphasize here that because we do this and somebody feels we are not fighting and therefore we are not doing anything, that would be a waste of time. We represent people of this country, and we went around to campaign in different parts of the country. The National Assembly is a mini Nigeria. We know what our people want. We know what they need. And we will do only those things that, in our judgment and in the information that we could gather, will make life better for Nigerians. The legislature is the most misunderstood arm of government. I said this about 2 weeks ago. And in fact, our chairman, Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Dr. Sirajuddin Ajibola, said, this is the least developed arm of government. We want it to develop, and it is in the interest of Nigerians that this arm is developed, because the executive will always be there, whether it is democracy or whatever. The judiciary will always be there. So what reflects democracy, what portrays democracy in our country, is the legislature. It's for our people to always identify with us, to support us, to advise us, and even call us to order when we are off the right track. We have no problem with that. But I must emphasize that Nigerians have a National Assembly that will always remain committed to ensuring that the people of Nigeria remain the centerpiece of our legislative interventions. It remains a record that we can make our budget cycle predictable, stable, and regular, as it is done in civilized climes, when we ensure that we pass the 2020 budget in December 2019. We did this conscious of our roles as an independent arm of government with the responsibility of vetting proposals, guided by good sense of propriety and the fulfillment of our legislative mandate. The achievement not only ensured the commencement of the budget implementation in January, but provided improved planning environment for our businesses. With renewed zeal, we passed over 450 bills, and key amongst these, as we all know, was the budget, and of course the amendment of the deep offshore and inland basin production sharing contract, the passage of the MTF FSP, and of course the finance bill, which had 7 bills then. And we also had confirmations for over 37 presidential requests. Talking about confirmations, how do we expect our government agencies to function properly if the governing boards or councils or managements, where necessary, are not approved expeditiously? We had challenges in the previous assembly. This time around, we may have challenges, but those challenges this time are not making it impossible for us to confirm the presidential requests of nominations into the various governing boards and councils. We started, of course, immediately with ministerial nominations, which we passed, and of course the confirmation of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and subsequently several confirmations, and we celebrated our anniversary on the 11th of June this year with the confirmation of the President of the Court of Appeal. We still have several confirmations requests, including, of course, the request for the confirmation of non-career ambassadors. And this legislative week, we'll have about 3 requests for confirmations. It is our hope and desire always that when we confirm people to work with the President or to work for the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, they will do so with responsibility, with dignity and respect to the rule of law and to the legislature and to the people of this country. We would not have ever rest on our oars and allow the situation and other challenges to affect the overall goal of national development, and hence the approval for not only the budget, but of course the funding of the budget. We approve requests for loans. Loans have been controversial. Some Nigerians will say, why take loans? Or why approve the loans? Some will say, well, there's nothing wrong in approving loans provided they will be deployed, the resources will be deployed to the appropriate projects and programs of government that will change the lives of the people, and also for the loans to generate means of repayment. And that argument is what is guiding us. First of all, we don't have the revenues, not through our fault. When the oil prices plummeted, even before COVID came, there was nothing we could do. Then COVID came, and things became complicated. Now we have very important programs and projects of government. Some are even flagship projects. There is nothing else but to look for resources elsewhere. In looking for the resources, we will always ensure that the loans have terms that are favorable to the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and to the people of this country, that they are targeted at specific developmental projects, and we follow with oversight to ensure that whatever we approve and taken as law would be used specifically for those things that we have approved. Some of these loans, well, with the benefit of hindsight, we can make less demand of loans. Probably it's time now that we consider other means of funding of government projects. Why can't we look into the options of public-private partnerships or build, operate, and transfer, and so on and so forth? There could be some, maybe companies or even governments of some countries that may be willing to put in their resources in the development of infrastructure for a period of time. I think we need to diversify our sources of funding. We are similarly monitoring the expenditure process consistent with our oversight responsibilities. The Senate and the National Assembly will continue with this momentum, not only for the good of our people, but for the growth, stability, and prosperity of our nation. The Press Corps, you have been very wonderful. Well, I thought you would clap for yourself more than this or better than that. It is my conviction that you have been very, very supportive to us in the 9th National Assembly. You have been there for us, and by the grace of God, will continue to be there for you. I used to be, in quotes, a friend of the press when I was in opposition, because they would like to hear government being bashed, and thank God at that time I think I was endowed with that kind of thing, an attitude. But you know, God can easily catch someone. Now we are in government. So we have a reversal of role. Now we don't want to be bashed. And now I talk less to the press than before. Before I could afford to say anything and get away with it. Somebody would not even take note of what I say. Now it's very easy to turn whatever I say upside down and cause not confusion, but misinterpretation, and of course fake news, what do we call them, merchants, around the corner. So I try to be careful on engagements. I try to be choosy with my words. And in the process, I think some of us feel I don't talk to the press a lot. You have to bear with me. I need to be very careful. But that is not to say that if you have anything that you think is in the national interest, that we talk about it, you cannot talk to us. You are free to do so. And of course, if you ask me a difficult question, as a good student, I will normally start with the easier ones. Where they are all difficult ones, I will not really have to answer them as the questions are put. I could decide to reframe the questions to make it easier for me to respond to them and probably still give you the answer you want. The chairman asked for a few things. Chairman James, you asked for I don't know, even though there is no way we can have closed session with the press. Because if you ask for a closed session with the press, I don't know who you are asking to leave. But let me say that I've taken note about the request for improving the monthly intervention, even though this is a budgetary matter, but I've taken note of it. We'll look into it favorably. You also asked for a retreat, and you say it's a tradition that the retreat takes place in the home state of the Senate President. How I wish I could easily carry everybody here to my state. But then again, we have something working against us. Besides the COVID, I don't want a situation where somebody will go there and not concentrate, thinking maybe somebody from the bush come and attack. So we value you so much. We value life. We are okay in our state. In fact, we sleep outside our rooms with our eyes all closed. But I'm sure some of us here will may not sleep, or if they do, with one eye closed and another one opened. For you, because the essence is for you to have the exchange of ideas and essentially capacity building. So we'll organize that, Mr. Chairman, and of course, distinguished members. You have asked for another room, that the present room, your center is small because of your size. The number, you said you are about 85 now, accredited Senate Press Corps members. We'll look into that. We'll ask the management of the National Assembly to look for a better and bigger space. I'm not sure if hearing room 2 will be available. I'm not sure yet. I don't know what will happen, but we are going to ask for a better place for you. And of course, you have asked for a Costa bus. That one you are giving. Whatever it takes, whether National Assembly and whatever I can do or any of our leaders here can do, you deserve a new Buster bus. So we'll give you. And of course, that's all you have asked. So I will also ask, even though it's just to behave the Oliver Twist. You have done so much for us, but you know, we'll never get tired of asking you to continue to show understanding, to continue to inform the Nigerian public about what we do here in the National Assembly. We have a responsibility as legislators to continue to educate and enlighten those who send us here. Because it's very easy that somebody will just say, let's have part-time National Assembly, let's have one chamber, let's have this, disband the National Assembly, and so on and so forth. What people fail to understand is this National Assembly is what stabilizes Nigeria. Maybe tomorrow the headline will be that. Make it. The National Assembly is what stabilizes Nigeria. I repeat that. How? You have to have, in fact, you must have legislation to govern people, isn't it? So who will legislate? Provisional Ruling Council? It has to be the legislature. At this level, at the national level, is this National Assembly. And because Nigeria is multicultural, multilingual, multi-religious, and multi-everything, you need proper representation. So when you come to the House with 360 members, you'll be looking at how the population of each state is represented. That's why you have 24 members from the from Kano State, 24 members in the House from Kano. I think Bielsa has 6 or 5 probably maximum of 6. Anyway, my state has 6 members. Kano has 24, based on the population size. If we have only the House of Representatives as the chamber in the National Assembly, that is to say, a unicameral legislature at the national level, those who are in the minority, those with smaller representations, would continue to cry that there is too much dominance by the larger states, and so on and so forth. So the framers of our Constitution cleverly and patriotically decided, let there be a Senate. So even if Kano has 24 members of the House, and Bielsa has less, far less, maybe 1/4, Kano has only 3 senators, and Bielsa has also 3 senators. You see, here is to ensure that even if something goes against someone because he has less number of people in the state, in the House, when it comes to the Senate, he has equal representation. And they have made it that if the House passes a bill, it doesn't become a law. The same thing, if the Senate passes a bill, that bill does not become law until, in the first case, the Senate concurs with what the House passes, or the House concurs with what the Senate passes. So that is stability. And that's why I said that it's the legislature that is stabilizing Nigeria. So what do we need to do? To continue to support the legislature, to develop it. That is not to say that people should not criticize it. People should criticize us with a view to making us do better. But let's work to ensure that our legislature is stable, is focused, like we want to be. So with this, once again, I want to thank you most sincerely for this interaction. And going forward, we are waiting for the executive to bring to us the petroleum industry bill very soon, because this is one piece of legislation that will turn the economic fortunes of Nigeria for the better. We are aware that the executive has been working round the clock to ensure that the bill or bills are sent to the National Assembly in the next possibly 2 weeks. And if we receive them, it is our desire in the National Assembly that we start work on the bill or bills, because time is of essence, and this PIB has defied every legislative intervention. We have tried hard in the 6th Assembly without luck, in the 7th Assembly to pass it without luck, in the 8th Assembly without luck, in the 9th Assembly we'll pass it by the grace of God with luck. Thank you very much.
Can we give His Excellency a standing ovation, please? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the 2 questions. I will start with the question by Honorable Harry Umaru, who will soon join this side in his state, hopefully. We have always pride ourselves as the Senate that work for Nigerians. And we have demonstrated that, in a very emphatic way. When he asked the question, I was thinking he would go further, or he would have prefixed his question with, thank you very much for your intervention to stop the increase in electricity tariff. But you see, this is the problem we always have. That one was, nobody took notice of it. But that's something that we have done as a National Assembly. And that is to tell you what we'll always do. So we'll look into what has been announced and see how we can deal with that. But I want to assure you once again that we will always be on the side of the people. Having said this, let me go to the first question, that it appears we are not on the same page with the executive arm of government. Only one person defines the executive arm of government. Only one person. Only one. Any other person there is recruited or appointed to support that one person. That one person is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So if somebody, an employee or an appointee, out of several, does something that does not show harmony, I think it will be unfair and uncharitable to say that the executive arm of government is not on the same page with us. But let me tell you also here that the National Assembly consciously and patriotically passed the request of the executive for 52 billion naira to undertake the program on public works across the country, where 1,000 youth particularly would be employed in every single local government. And that will give you 774,000 people to be employed. That was an approval by the National Assembly in the revised budget request of Mr. President. When the National Assembly was to pass that request, the National Assembly was conscious through scrutiny that NDE, the National Directorate of Employment, will be the agency to implement the program. And we approved that because we know NDE has the capacity to implement the program. So that program is an NDE program approved by the National Assembly, 52 billion naira worth of program. Secondly, it is within the purview of our committees to demand an explanation on the process and procedure through which this program will be implemented. So our joint committee was right. The committee was right to ask the questions. We are meant to interrogate the processes through which such programs would be implemented. Thirdly, the committee resolved that the program should be suspended until such explanations are provided on how this program will be implemented. We stand by that. The National Assembly is saying that program remains suspended until the executive arm of government comes to explain how they will implement that program across the states. And we insist that we passed the budget for NDE to go and implement because it has the capacity. Our purpose is not just to approve money. It's like you pass resolution or you pass the budget for NPA to undertake a program. And then the Ministry of Transportation headquarters will go and take the program from NPA. The ministry doesn't have the capacity. NPA has. And that will be the basis of allowing the program to be taken by NPA. Or another example, say Ministry of Power. You pass resources, budget for the Rural Electrification Agency to implement programs. And then the Ministry of Power headquarters will come and take the program. It doesn't work out that way. We insist that only NDE will implement this program. And even NDE, led by the Minister of Employment and Productivity, would have to come and explain to the National Assembly committees how they will implement the program. For us, on our side in the National Assembly, we have passed the budget, we have approved it, we are going to support the program because our constituents will be the beneficiaries. And if we didn't like the program, we wouldn't have in the first place passed it. So it will be unfair to say that the executive and us in the legislature are not on the same page because of an action by someone out or amongst the executive. But I want the press to understand that what the National Assembly is insisting on is in the national and public interest. It's in the national interest that we know what is going on, because we passed the 52 billion naira, and somebody should explain to us how the processes of selecting the state selection committee is, who are the stakeholders, how are they identified and nominated, the 1,000 beneficiaries in the local governments, how are they going to be selected, what will it be, like one of our senators asked, how do you measure the success of the program? What do you need to achieve? What are those milestones that you have to achieve to say this program is successful? How do we key in to support you, the executive arm of government, to succeed in that respect? So there's nothing that gives an indication that the executive and the legislature are not on the same page. But this is a program that Nigerians must benefit, and we are representing Nigerians. We want complete understanding of how this program is going to be implemented. NDE is what we approved, is the agency approved to implement the program. And of course, the ministry headquarters, like the National Assembly, at their level, can undertake supervision to ensure that NDE is doing the right thing. But I want to tell you, I know NDE. NDE has been around for a long time. NDE has developed the capacity and capabilities to undertake such a program very successfully, and there is no need for anyone to take away this responsibility, because that is a law. We have passed it, is NDE, not the ministry headquarters. Thank you very much.